everybody, welcome back to the homestead. My name is Jessie, and if this is your first video here with us, I am the mama of the homestead. My family and I live on 1 acre. We grow as much as we can in our garden. We have chickens, we have rabbits, and I also use local resources as much as possible to provide for our family. I do things the old-fashioned way. A lot of times I call it doing what Granny did. And so it may not necessarily be the way somebody else does it. So you always do your own research on how you can and preserve and keep your own food and decide what's best for you and your family. What I do works out well for us, and I'm happy to share it with you. So today I am doing salsa. I actually started this salsa yesterday in my roaster pan, which you'll see in a minute. And that's just an easy way to get the peels off without having to blanch every tomato, because over the weekend we picked like 60 pounds of tomatoes, which is awesome, and I am so glad to have it. So I threw it in the roaster with some onions and some garlic and some goodies, and we're going to make salsa out of it. And I guess we'll just call it roasted salsa. I'm going to bring you all with me and let you see how I do it. I even use a little cheat for the seasoning. If you have your own seasoning recipe, that's awesome. You can use whatever you want. Anyway, let's get started. So this is a new tripod and a new phone, and I'm having some difficulty. It's like it's wider and my stuff's not showing as well, if that makes sense. Anyway, so I've kind of got you on this end, which is opposite of where I usually have you to watch me work. All of this is stuff that I canned last night, so it's going to be out of the way, but for right now I have to let it sit because I didn't get I did not get done till about 1 in the morning, so it has to sit. I always tell you 12 to 24 hours. I work in a very small space, so I can't move it yet, so I'm going to have to work around it. Here's my roaster pan. I took the liner out of the roaster. It's cool enough for me to handle, and there is a lot of tomatoes, and this thing was full, so it's cooked down quite a bit, and I'll have to pull you in closer. I'm just kind of showing you the basics. I'll move my lid over here into the sink. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my handy dandy food processor. If you don't have one, find you one. Even if you go to a thrift store, don't have to buy it new. I bought this thing new on clearance for $15 a long time ago. And we all know that you can't find them like that anymore. So, and you might even have a little crack right there, but I'm going to keep using it. So look for these in thrift stores. It's handy to have at least one. All right, what we're going to do, we as in me and you, I'm going to ladle out as much of the flesh and the peppers. I have onions, garlic, peppers, tomatoes, all the good stuff in here, but I don't want the really loose juice in it. So I'm going to use this dipper to dip out as much as I can, put in this processor, and kind of pulse it till I get a puree. And that's what's going to go in my pan to make my salsa. Also, like I said, the roasting is the easy way to get the skins off, and I might not have gotten all the skins on there, but I've gotten most of them. If you want to save this, you can make a tomato powder out of this. If you don't want to save it, like I'm not going to mess with it. I got way too much to do. It's going to go with the chickens, and I get eggs, and I'd rather have eggs anyway. But you can save this up if you want to. I had to go through and pick a little bit more skins than I thought I had. Anyway, I just dip it. That's a layer. See all the skin there I missed. Put your lid on. Gonna get noisy. Miss Petunia may take care of that for us. Now this will be a little more smooth than what I normally do because she did sit in the roaster for so long, but there's what it looks like. There's a little more water than what I'm used to. And like I said, cramped space. We're going to pour it over here in my pot that you can't see. Sorry. I don't like that. But anyway, you get the gist. So that's the first time I'm going to do the entire pan this way. And I'll show you how much water I have. My last batch, there's another tomato. My last batch, it got really thick. So this one I'm going to leave a little bit of water in. But I'll let you see the finished product. Last one. Last count. I don't remember how many I did, but I didn't think you wanted to watch the whole thing. You can tell there was a lot of yellow and orange tomatoes in that one. That's a pretty good sized pot of salsa there. I have a mess to clean up, but hopefully you can sort of see. Let's see if I dump this everywhere. That's the amount of tomato juice I have left. Can you see that? Anyway, don't throw it away. Put it in a jar and can it separately. It goes great in soups and chilies and whatever you would normally use water for. Use it. Don't throw it away. It's still good. I just didn't want, you know, a crazy amount of water in the salsa. Look at that. All right. Now it's time to warm it up. Get the seasonings in it. So at this point, my salsa is cooked. I mean, it is done. All I really need to do is warm it up, and then I'm going to use Mrs. Wage's mild salsa because my family's not real big on the hot stuff, but you can get a hot salsa. Or like I said, you can use your own recipe for your own seasonings, whatever you want to do. And since this is a pretty big batch of salsa, I'm going to dump this whole thing in. But most of the time, when I do small batches and I just roast like one pan of tomatoes at a time, I'll just take a portion of it and I'll get 2 or 3 batches out of one envelope. But today, I'm dumping the whole thing in. And I've only got my stove at a 3, just to give it time to get good and warm. She doesn't need to be boiling. She just basically needs to get warm enough to can safely. And then next to me, I have all of the extra tomato juice in a smaller pot warming up so that it is plenty warm whenever it comes time to can it. I'm probably going to have to can a couple different batches. There's quite a bit here, so it's not all going to fit in the canner at once. After that, we're going to get ready to can it. I mean, this is super simple. I can't give you specific amounts because I eyeball everything. But, you know, you just get your roaster if you have a huge amount or just a regular, like 9x13 pan. Cut your tomatoes, core your tomatoes, lay them down. Throw any other veggies you want to with it. Put it in the oven for 350 degrees for an hour, hour and a half. You just watch it. Every oven's different. Or you can throw it in a roaster or a crock pot like I do. Super easy, a lot less work, no blanching. She's good and bubbly. You can probably see the steam. I've got my jars ready. I'm assuming by watching this video that you're familiar enough with canning to know you need to make sure everything's clean. Your jars need to be clean, your funnel. You need to have your rings. If you reuse rings, make sure they're clean. Have your lids ready to go. Have a clean towel, or today I have paper towels that's damp for you to be able to wipe your rings with, or your rims of your jars, I'm sorry. These are just some ball canning lids that I've already had and have had for a while. They're not like the new ones that everybody's complaining about not working well. So far so good for me on these. And I'm going to go ahead and start jarring it up. That way I can get the canner on the stove and get it warmed up and get it all thrown together. And one more thing. You need something besides just your counter to set it on. You can use anything. You can use an old rag. You can use a kitchen towel. But canning is messy. I'm sure you're aware of that. So I got a little crafty not long ago. And I don't have another one here handy. But I had some old quilt pieces. So this is the top of a quilt, and then underneath is some flannel that I actually even got on backwards. But I think I made 3 or 4 of these, and these work perfect for setting your hot jars on. They don't mess up your towels, and it's also something just a little pretty. So anyway, you can get crafty. You can use whatever you want. You just want a buffer between your hot jars and your countertop. We are all good. They got plenty of headspace on them. So we're going to wipe off our rims to make sure each jar is clean, like so. You don't want any schmutz between there because if you do, it will affect the seal. And you're going to make her a hug, not too snug. Remember that whenever you put your lid on. They call it finger tight. Just a hug, nothing crazy. And then I move it to the back, move this one up. Everybody has their own methods. But everybody uses the same basic method, right? We tweak it to suit ourselves, but here's another one. This one's got some stuff on it, so you'll see here. Get it good and clean because you don't want any junk on there. You want to get rid of that. And that is a largemouth. So we'll have to set this to the side. I need a couple largemouth rings or lids. Yes, it's good and hot. My hands are pretty tough. I can handle things well without mitts. If you need mitts or towels or whatever, do what you got to do. I'm just going to transfer that one over. because I have other jars to fill, so I'm not done with my funnel yet. And there you go. I gotta get a couple largemouth lids. I didn't even pay attention to the fact that I had 2 wide mouth jars here. I'm gonna get another paper towel. The first one's kind of yucky by this point. I'm just gonna fold it up. Shop towels are great for canning. I use them when I have them. I just don't happen to have them today, so I had to use a regular one. And I mean, I've used clean kitchen rags. It doesn't have to be disposable. All right, we're gonna get the canner going and get her loaded up. Isn't that pretty? It'll darken a little bit after it's canned. And yes, this jar is hot. I can just handle it. So I've got my canner full of water. And because we have really hard water, I have a little bit of vinegar in here to keep the white film off of my jars. And it's pretty warm. I can stick my hands in there, but you want the temperature of your jars and the temperature of the water in your canner to be the same before you put them in there, or else you're going to have exploding jars. You don't want that. So we're going to place them in. So I like to let this sit for just a minute. The water's barely touching the bottom of these jars. I've got my stove on. And just like maybe after just a couple minutes for me, I'll drop it down. I'm going to put the lid on it. And I'm going to water bath this according to Mrs. Wage's instructions, since it's their seasonings. I also have a little bit of vinegar in my salsa that I forgot to show you. I just did it all at once. Anyway, but you don't have to have the vinegar. Tomatoes are acidic enough, but you know, new recipes want you to add stuff to it. I just like the taste. Anyhow, once you get this in the water and you get it covered with your lid, you're going to wait till it comes to a full boil over your jars, about 2-3 inches. Once it comes to a full boil, then you're going to set your timer, and we're going to water bath can this for 40 minutes. Okay? I'm going to give her a minute. And then I have my other salsa that needs to be batched up next, warmed over here. And I also have my tomato water or tomato juice on this back burner. So everything's staying warm, so that once we get started, it's going to move quicker than it would be if I had to warm everything up over and over again. This is the point you want it. You want a full rolling boil. Now we're going to set our timer for 40 minutes. Our 40 minutes is up. I went ahead and shut the stove down. The boil's coming down. I'm going to give it just a couple minutes to where you don't hear any bubbling. Then I'm going to raise the lid with the pot holder. I'll have to find my pot holder away from my face. Remove my lid, and then we're just going to leave it sit a little bit longer to let it acclimate, because we don't want any siphoning, okay? So I'm going to give it a few minutes, and then I'm going to take the lid off, and then we're going to take a look. Okay, we're going to see what we got. And there's a little one right here by the tripod. Look at that. Now, I didn't mention the debubbling, but typically you put something in there and stir around, make sure there's no bubbles before you can. You didn't see me do it. Half the time I don't do it. It's a good thing to do. When you put your stuff in your jar to can it, you go ahead and give it a zhuzh around to make sure there's no air bubbles in there. But anyhow, looks like everything is coming out great. You remove it slowly. I keep it as upright as I can, but I do take a little extra water off. Some people are sticklers about removing the jars without tipping them, but I don't want a bunch of water on my counter, so it will evaporate off some. I have a full batch here of 8, and then I have another 7 jars to put in. So that's a good little batch of salsa. And then I still have my tomato juice over here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use the same canning water. I'm going to bring up my rack. And then I keep some water nearby in case I have to top off or anything. And I just pour this in to help bring my water levels back up. There's already vinegar in the pot. But here's the next batch. We're going to put them in. Everything's a little hotter this time, but it's okay. As long as you're cautious and careful, it's all good. If you're interested in canning and you're just watching videos just to learn, and you don't really want to spend a huge amount of money on a new canner, one of my sons works at a farm and ranch store, and for a regular granite canner, they want like $60. I'm telling you, go to the thrift stores. Not necessarily just Goodwill, but you can go to Goodwill. But the thrift stores. I found a canner not long ago, brand new, never been touched. It was a water bath canner with the rack, and it was a granite one. I paid $7 for it. Yeah, that was a really good deal. You don't find those often, but you do find used canners. So keep your eyes peeled, especially for water bath. If you can't find one, I'm going to give this a minute for them to all, just like last time, let the jars and the water, kind of acclimate together. If you can't find a water bath canner, anywhere you look, you can use any pot with a good lid and make your own rack. You can use it with canning rings. You can use it with anything that just keeps the base of your jars off of the bottom of your pot. If you Google it, I'm sure there's a lot of ideas out there. But I have even done the canning ring thing myself. Before I had multiple canners and I just needed a little extra for a few extra jars, I went ahead and got one of my regular stew pots and put the canning rings in the bottom, and it worked fine. You just don't want your jar to touch the bottom. Okay. Give it a minute. I'm going to drop it. I'm going to crank the water back up. Once it comes to a rolling boil, we're going to give it 40 minutes. Batch number 2. Shut off the timer. Shut off the stove. Let her come down to a nice, calm, whatever. Keep the water calm. And then we'll give it a few minutes. Raise the lid. And for some reason, it is not. Give it a few minutes. Raise the lid away from your face. Let it rest a few minutes more, and then we'll remove them. And then we'll go ahead and can this. I put them in quarts. But I got 3 quarts of tomato juice. So, like I said, don't throw that away. Keep it, because this is great for chili and soup and whatever you want to use it for in the wintertime. Time's up. Let's get round 2 out of the way. Move my candles to the side here. There it is. Looks good. We ran out of salsa last year. Actually, this year, I think it was in May. I had to go a couple months without homemade salsa. I didn't like that. So, hopefully I get some more made this year, and we'll have enough to last the whole winter and into spring. Till tomato season comes in. The tomatoes and the peppers all come from our homestead right here. Some of the onions did, but not all, and the garlic did not. But I'm planting garlic this fall. Alright, so that was round 2. Need to raise up my rack. Alright, gonna add some water, and we're gonna throw these other ones in. Last batch is done. Let's pull them out of the canner. And then that'll be it for today's canning. Look how good that looks. Don't that look good? We got ourselves some tomato juice, baby. Make sure it doesn't siphon. I'm pulling it out a little bit quick because it's getting close to dinner time and the kids are getting cranky. So I'm trying to hurry up. Which is normally not advisable. But for today, that's what I'm going to do. As long as everything stays in its jars. Alrighty. Well, I think that about covers it. Oh, we did get a ping. Doesn't seem like we're very well focused in. There we are. Ping. Thank you all for joining me today. I'm glad you stopped by. Stay tuned for more canning videos and more chaos. Thanks for coming back to the homestead. Do what you can right where you are. And when Mr. Jesse comes in, I'll have him give the verse.
Psalms 34, verse 8. Oh, taste and see that the Lord is good. Blessed is the man that trusteth in him.